Hey, okay, first of all, let's make a couple updates over with the channel. I'll be still uploading over in the DST show, but I will also probably, probably, depends on my, you know, content work rate, trying to bring my efforts also to another channel where I can do primarily more sports because I already have a lot more wrestling stuff on this one. So, let's bring this up to perspective over what happened back in December over recent comments made with some of the opinions over current AEW commentator, play-by-play commentator Jim Ross, from his recent opinion over the current wrestling style of AEW wrestlers, and he's been with accountable backlash and with great support over his opinion. And one of these outriders of commenting back on the freaking guy that was literally there during the boom period of mainstream popularity of pro wrestling, Brandon Cutler. Now, Brandon Cutler sucks ass. I have literally tried not to be the type to be targeting individual wrestlers, yet it's somehow in the major popularity poll, and I'm not trying to leech over what gives me major popularity. I want to do other stuff. But by God, I hate Brandon Cutler. This SJW smart mark jobber that's prioritizingly terrible at his job and even primarily being a jobber. Your character is off the fucking board game Dungeons and fucking Dragons. You can barely sell. You have any primordial moveset. You have very little charisma. You're only there because the Young Bucks know you. Impact Wrestling would even sign you if they had enough money. And they tried to get sued. And Joey Ryan tried to sue them off 19 million? And even that couldn't happen. Another reason why he sucks over what his comments said about Jim Ross. That this indie style BS is not the way to go. And many other fans over Jim Ross's comments absolutely agreed with him. Even smart marks, or at least some overly optimistic wrestling fans, was like, okay, Jim Ross is really right about this. We shouldn't be relying on these indie schmucks to know how it is to be successful in the business. And he takes it like he's making a personal shot. He's saying that this stuff isn't working. This is not going to get outside fans to understand what's going on in the ring. They overdoing and overusing moves that should be the major finish, like a DDT and super kick, top gun hellos, or freaking tope suicidas. And over all this time, freaking Brandon Cutler coming around defending all this BS when AEW, the Young Bucks, even Kenny Omega, prioritizing freaking ugly females like freaking Nyla Rose over a jobber like you. You have an inconsistent ass YouTube channel. Your biggest feud to date is over a 25 match losing streak until losing to Peter Avalon. Your definitive look is tights, knee pads, kick pads, and a red streak over your head for no apparent reason. Nobody plays Dungeons and Dragons to understand your gimmick other than you're a nerd, and that's already 70% of the company of guys on the roster, especially Miro when they're prime signings to get $250,000 to be a big buff nerd. And the only semblance of relevance he gets is from his freaking wife. That's how bad Miro has been since coming to AEW. And you're telling me now that Brandon Cutler is such a prime sort. The guy is more on BTE than he is on All Elite Pro Wrestling. He has no consistent semblance of charisma. The guy just acts like such a softie that I hear much about him crying up in freaking arguments, and he's disrespecting a man that's been in the business for more decades than he's been alive. That's stupid. He's stupid. Nobody ever tells me ever about Brandon Cutler. Like if like during most of the signings, what's been going on in AEW. I know most of what we were getting were backwater jobber mid carders that WWE let go over the span of 4 years, and some indie guys. So now, over most of this, like spring cleaning better happen. Spring cleaning better happen not only for WWE but for AEW, because they just got guys that they're barely using, or they barely prioritize like Brandon Cutler, Joey Jelena, Sonny Kiss, Matt Cardona, that they don't even have a storyline that they had him for other than tagging with Cody against the Dark Order one time. Michael Nakazawa, that's just there on Dark. And it's like, they'll use him for like a primitive time for like a comedic spot or something. Then they have these guys just doing nothing. Because these are indie dudes that barely have, a spot on television, a complete gimmick, or at least a semblance of a character. And thanks, they're not that notable as guys like at least people can hear about in the WWE. What you're gonna tell me about Brandon Cutler? This guy is a friend of the Young Bucks. He's bald for his age. Yeah, and of course he has a gimmick based on what he plays, like Dungeons and Dragons. Huh. So we got like a freaking nerd that consistently loses fights. No one's gonna hook up to that. No one's going to care about that. And Brandon Cutler just thinks he's that primitive into the product, even though he doesn't do shit. He does cutters. He had this dumb match with Peter Avalon. He has no... John Silver is more of a prime guy I could keep on the roster. Because guess what? At least he's likable. The guy looks fit even though he's undersized. I can use him for comedic spots. And he has a bit of charisma. He seems funny. I can use that. I don't know what to use Brandon Cutler for. The guy just seems like a bland dude that you see around a freaking Starbucks, even though he's a grown man. And if a grown man is there on a Starbucks and he didn't bring his girlfriend, that's Brandon Cutler. The guy scares the shit out of me. The guy just looks like a guy you pimp slap out of nowhere, and and the girl's always gonna be happy enough to just say, "Oh, he's my guy friend." That's Brandon Cutler. He scares me. So that's all I can say about it right now, folks. If you guys feel like I'm ragging on the guy too hard, just understand this is all about fun. I don't want to always like rag on the guy unless he does something completely terrible. Brandon Cutler just seems like a indie schlock jobber, SJW pansy that obviously doesn't know his worth, and it's obviously not in a prime billion-dollar wrestling company that needs a lot more time to grow itself around the ground, because it's making lots of money but it's not utilizing it correctly. Even though they got Shaq, Sting, it just feels like they're not using them for like prime storylines or anything. If they want to make themselves at least the alternative, well, fuck WWE in that type of time period, and they still have a lot more growing ability. I see a lot of potential on AEW's part, but they need to let go of guys that are obviously not set for television, especially if they're not having a training program, they're not authorizing acting classes, they're not authorizing TV producers to help out with these guys or make prime storylines, because they need writers, they need bookers, they need guys that have more experience over in the business other than just having Cody and whatever the hell Tony Khan thinks is more liable because he watches what culture. So that's all I can say about this. This is coming from me. Thank you. That's all I got. I'm not gonna say F you, bye. That's copyright infringement.